Good morning, everyone. I'm Mary Jo Larson, publisher of Franchise Times, and I would like to thank you for joining us for Franchise Times Prime Time. We are so glad to have you with us today. The purpose of Prime Time, if you don't know, is to give executives of franchise brands an opportunity to present their concept to you, our audience. They will reveal their company's outlook, expansion plans, and business case. It really is a great opportunity to learn each month about the brands and get the inside story on franchising. We are very pleased to have the following brands presenting today: Pearle Vision, Gongcha, and Once Upon a Child. And just as a reminder, reach out and contact these brands if you like their presentation and want to chat with them. I would also like to give a big shout out to Tenet Financial, our sponsor of our primetime episode today. Thank you to them for their support. If you would like more information about Tenet, please click the banner ad at the bottom of the page. And before we get started, I do want to go over a couple of notes that will help you get the most out of your presentations today. Throughout the presentations, we encourage you to submit questions, which you may do by clicking to the right of the video feed. If the presenter does not get to your question, we will give them your contact details to follow up after the event. To learn more about our speakers, please visit the speaker tab to the right of your video feed. And if you miss any part of the broadcast, you can watch these presentations and past ones replay on Franchise Times website for the remainder of 2021. Also, your registration today includes a complimentary 2-year subscription to Franchise Times magazine, so be looking for that. Okay, as promised, during each episode of Franchise Times Prime Time, we will be interviewing an expert in the franchise community to give their update on the issues and trends they are seeing. I'd like to welcome Nick Upton, restaurants editor for Franchise Times, with us today. Nick, welcome to Prime Time. We really appreciate you being here.
Thanks, it's great to be here.
Tell us a little bit, we want some more intel on franchising. Tell us a little bit about what's in the next issue of Franchise Times.
Well, it's a great issue. There's a whole lot of stuff, as always. But I'd like to point to the cover story. It's a really fascinating and candid look at Edible, formerly Edible Arrangements. The company has gone through, a couple years of some tricky things. Sales have fallen, and founder and chairman now, Tariq Farid, admits that the company lost sight of what it was doing. So it's rebounded with sales, but franchisee profitability is not quite there. So Beth Ewan does a great job of exploring kind of that dynamic that we always see in franchising, the push and pull from the franchisor and the franchisee, and the lawsuits that percolate up in the middle there. I think I know you've read it, but I think it's a must read for anyone in the franchise space to kind of get a good look at some of these big issues and how they roll out, even at a very successful company.
Right. We always have that in franchising where there's, like you say, a push and pull. It's a little curvy road with franchisors. A lot of them go through bumps in the road, and that's just the way it is.
It's like a marriage, right?
Right. That's what they always say. It's just like a marriage. Well, your title is restaurants editor, and wow, talk about an industry that's had a bumpy road. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing happening out there, and then also some of the trends that you're seeing.
Yeah, we have 4 hours for this, right?
Not quite.
Okay. Well, I mean, from a very high level, it was and continues to be a story of the haves and have-nots. If you have a drive-through or a very sophisticated delivery program, you're probably doing better than last year. We touched on that in the last issue, how well pizza is doing right now, and some operators were bashful even to tell their casual dining friends or industry peers how well they were doing. Some saw sales up 100%, 50%, just incredible numbers. We see the same thing in QSR, and that's something I'm touching on in this issue as well, leaning into that drive-through operation that has, really made 2020 for them. There's a lot of operators using this windfall to invest in, very big updates, new units, new tools like drive-through technology, headsets, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to be seeing that for a very long time, I think. But that's not to say that casual dining and fast casual is just floundering out there. I'd point to Teriyaki Madness. They've done a really good job of converting people to their own delivery program, or not their own delivery program, their own ordering program and their loyalty program, and they're doing really well with delivery and off premises. In casual dining, it's tougher, obviously. A lot of money made on drinks, and a lot fewer people drinking right now.
Right.
So the best case scenario there is, down 10%, and that's going to continue until people feel comfortable going back to restaurants. At a macro level, it's been grim. The National Restaurant Association said more than 110,000 restaurants were permanently closed. And we've talked about how there's too many restaurants per capita for a few years now, but this correction, if you like to call it that, was more aggressive and more volatile than I think anyone kind of imagined that would happen. So we're going to be watching the effects of that, and the silver linings too of people being able to find better help, new restaurant spaces. We're going to be watching all this for a few more years, and of course exploring it in Franchise Times.
Right. So lots of opportunities too for
Yes.
restaurants,
Yes.
possibly.
Yes, but it's some bittersweet opportunities for sure.
Right. You were talking a little bit about the have and have-nots, and
Yeah.
we're going to talk a little bit about the haves now.
Yeah, yeah.
These are the Zora Awards. We always do this every year in our March issue.
Yep.
And tell me a little bit about that coverage and who's on top there.
Well, I won't name names yet. I don't want to
Okay.
spoil the fun, but yeah, it's a great group of brands. We love doing this project. It's a fun way to look at some brands that are growing aggressively and making the franchisees a lot of money. There's so much excitement talking to these franchisees, which is great to hear after a very long year. So we run all these brands through a pretty rigorous set of quality control to find kind of the best in franchising for especially for younger franchises or younger franchisees and new franchisees, where there's some room to grow without having a big $1 billion checkbook or a hedge fund behind you.
Right.
So it's a fun one to look at, and it's a great series of stories, and it's great to hear from these franchisees.
Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing is you're interviewing the franchisees.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is really interesting because they're the ones that are going to tell you whether or not the franchisor is performing.
Yeah, and some of the excitement from these guys is incredible. I had one guy swearing about how he's going to kick Chick-fil-A's butt, with some
Yeah.
more choice language than that perhaps, but the passion is there. And
Excited.
it makes you want to drive out to Colorado and try some of this chicken.
Talk about the Legal Eagles.
Yeah.
That's at awards that we give out every year, but that's coming up in April. Talk a little bit
Yeah.
about that coverage and maybe what's new this year as well.
Yeah, sure thing. I mean, it's a way to highlight some of the best and brightest legal professionals in franchising, and it's a pretty small knit group of attorneys out there, and they all work pretty well together. So it's great to highlight them. Attorneys get a bad rap, especially in this industry, I think. So it's great to hear these stories of legal pros getting involved in a business and really transforming it and helping the operators out. So highlighting those is always a fun thing. That'll be in our April issue. Yeah, what's new this year is we're focusing on young attorneys.
Right.
Working title of 40 under 40, but around there. So how they're using technology different, how they're taking a different look at how to tackle some of these big legal issues in franchising. So that'll be really fun. Of course, we're going to be touching on COVID. The legal fallout from the pandemic. There's going to be some very interesting legal cases, I think, hitting the courts and arbitration, et cetera, from COVID. We'll also be looking at the new rules under the Biden administration. What's going to happen there if we have to worry about joint employer again or NLRB and all that fun stuff.
Right. It always comes back around, doesn't it?
It always does.
Well, we are doing something different with the Legal Eagles this year. Can you tell us about that? Roundtables?
Yeah, we're really excited about we're calling it the Legal Eagles Roundtable. It's going to be held on April 8th, so mark your calendars and go register at franchisetimes.com, of course. But we're talking with some of our best legal friends in franchise who are, going to go deeper on some of these big topics. And help us get a little pro bono legal advice, of course, which we always love to give and love to get.
Yeah, that's right. Free legal advice. So get your questions ready.
Exactly.
It's not often that happens, right?
Certainly not.
Well, thank you so much, Nick, for being here. It was
Yeah.
really fun to have you, and we really appreciate it.
Great.
So until next time, thank
Till
you.
next time. Thanks, everyone.